What a lust-driven world we live in. I mean, I've always known it, but when I recently came across the stats, well, the 2018 stats at least, for the number or percentage of our teenage boys who engage in transactional relationships or transactional sex, I was quite alarmed. I knew it was happening, but 54% in that 2018 report that I saw, 54% for boys and about 24% for girls between the ages of 15 and 19 who engage in transactional sex. No, I was, yeah, that's all I can say. Just had to shake my head, but we're going to get into some of those reasons. I'm even going to read briefly an article that is in relation to the issue, and we're going to gain some more understanding as to why it's said that this is happening. So stick with me. My name is Brianna Vernon, and this is the Independent Report. Now, we're pretty much used to hearing about young girls and sugar daddies as they try to get their school fees paid or materialistic things from these men so that they can live lives of luxury. And in return, they many times offer up their bodies for these benefits. And I've always known that the flip side has been happening where boys are concerned, young boys, but it's not something that is talked about half as much. But yet, according to that 2018 report that I've just mentioned to you, and that the statistics also confirmed by a representative of the Ministry of Health, Marianne Scott Thomas, back in 2018, boys account for a higher percentage of our young people who engage in this transactional type of relationship with, of course, who we know would be called cougars, women who are generally 40 years and older who specifically seek out these young men to fulfill some form of sick fantasies that they have. So it's happening with our boys at an alarming rate. And you wonder why? What is it about this thing that is so taboo that is reeling in our young men, our children, because it's between the ages of 15 to 19? That's what the report said. And what is wrong with these women? Because we're specifically speaking about the cougar young boy dynamic, because it's not talked about enough. What is wrong with these women where they are specifically seeking out these children, these young men to fulfill their fantasies? Why not seek out persons who are more of age, right? Because even if you are 19, yes, you're an adult, but what similarities? What do you have in common with, let's say, a 50-year-old woman? What business do you have being with a 50-year-old woman? Now, there are various reasons as to why this happens, or there are various reasons given, and I'm going to read this article that was published in the Jamaica Observer, their all-woman column back in 2022, and it's titled The Cougar Effect. And I'll read a bit of it. They have given the young man an initial, they call him N in the article. And they're saying he has always had an affinity for older women. And he was 23 at the time of this article in 2022. He says that's how he's always been. In a sit-down interview with All Woman, he says that his first encounter with an older woman happened when he was just 17 years old, so he was still a child, and she was 63. Uno, tell me now, how do you justify that? 17 and 63. Could be his grandmother. Well, let's hear how he justifies it. Well, first, let's hear how he says he came to know this woman. He says, she saw me, approached me, and said, "Has anyone told you you are a handsome guy?" He says at the time he was going through a very rough situation, and the warmth of a stranger and the nurturing nature of the woman pulled him in. They went on from there to begin speaking and engaged in intimate activities from there on. And he says she allowed him to stay at an apartment that she said she owned. And he went on to say that he ended up falling for her until he found out a lot of what she told him were lies and things fell apart. Now, I don't know exactly what she told him, and he said they fell apart, but whatever it is, he says he found out they were lies. And the article goes on to mention that many young men, they say the reason they are so attracted to older women as opposed to younger women is because they are more mature, not as naive. They provide more comfort and emotional and psychological stability that young girls their age cannot provide. And I'm just like, I don't see the appeal, whether it is with a sugar daddy and a young girl or a cougar and a young man. I just believe this is straight exploitation, transactional. And many times, these young people, they come to find out that these older individuals, or in this case, these older women, aren't what they claim to be, just as he mentioned, just as N mentioned. They aren't what they claim to be. Sometimes I've also heard of situations where these older women end up becoming controlling of these young men and want to basically be involved in every aspect of their lives and know every aspect of their lives. And when this young man now wants some freedom, he's unable to get it. So in some way, there seems to be a price that has to be paid when you get too deep into it. Some of these young men, when they're with the older woman as well, they're using these benefits, whether the car that they're allowing them to drive, and they go and pick up their girlfriend. And it's just a culture of lust and usury, manipulation. And it doesn't teach our children anything good. When you have a 63-year-old woman, like in this case, seeking out who could be her grandchild, I want you guys to just picture, just think about how sickening it is. Because at that age, anyone that young, I would assume that you would look at them as a child, which they are. They could be your grandchild. And to see them as anything but that, to see them as a romantic interest, it's just so warped. Not only do they have the body of a child, they have the mind of a child. And many of these cougars, they seek out these young men because they want to feel young again. Or they just want their fantasies to come to life. Lust, just that's all it is. A culture driven by lust. People who cannot control their warped desires and cannot control temptation. And then the cycle continues. The cycle continues. So, as much as we speak about the young girls and sugar daddies, there's also the issue of the cougars and our young men, our young boys. Many of them as well fall into these traps out of need, out of wanting to survive, needing money. needing other benefits just to keep themselves afloat. And so these older women use that to their advantage. And so we are doing our children an injustice when we don't nip this in the bud. Many of our young men, even opposed or in comparison to our young girls, they are more so pushed into the they're more pushed into engaging in these acts. While many of us will say to our young girls, be a virgin until marriage, or not time for that, or what boyfriend I go, we encourage our young boys to do the opposite, as if they're showcasing some form of manhood by engaging in things that aren't suitable for their age. So when you are shielding your girl child from these things, but you're not shielding your boy and instead encouraging him, which I know a lot of fathers do, don't think I don't know about it. Many of the mothers may not, but I have heard of situations where fathers do. So when you're shielding your daughter, but encouraging your son, who do you think the son is going out to corrupt? Someone else's daughter, contributing to the cycle of lust in our society from a young age. So this whole using our bodies to receive benefits, it's disgusting. I don't know why it's so popularized in society. I really don't get it. Is the desire for pleasure so great that we're willing to do just any and anything? And I'm speaking not just for the children who might be in serious situations where they feel like that's the only way out. I'm even speaking for the older women and even the older men. Is your mind so corrupt that you have to do this? You have to corrupt the generation, the future of our nation. Ugh. From one issue to the next. So parents, again, which is where it all starts, the home is the foundation, where the education of our children begins. Watch over your children. Do everything you possibly can to ensure that they don't need to resort to these situations, to be manipulated and exploited like this, and to in turn become problems in society. That's where I'm going to leave it. You can take a look at the article. It is in the All Woman section or column of the Jamaica Observer. Let me see if I can check the title of it for you. It is entitled The Cougar Effect. It's a 2022 article. Right, so go and have a read. You can get your own context from that or understanding from that. But I've said all I needed to say. Right, so my name is Brianna Vernon, and this was the Independent Report.